إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. مرحبا بكم جميعا أهلا وسهلا. We continue with the series, the reasons and causes for fanaticism and leaving of fairness in the religion. A series that is being hosted by our noble brother Abu Abdul Salam of Nashr al-Bukhari, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, and may Allah protect and preserve his community. We left off with the seventh cause or reason, and that was that which some of the shuyukh have fallen into, and at other times their students. And that is them beautifying a statement or an understanding that they have in order to look good in the eyes of the others. As is mentioned by Imam al-Shawkani, how a shaykh will beautify his statement that is a mistake in the eyes of his students in order that he doesn't appear to be wrong with them or in their eyes, and that they view him as being the one to refer back to, although the statement is incorrect and the position is incorrect. And likewise, the students doing the same in the eyes of their mashaykh, beautifying an affair or a matter to make it appear that they are individuals who have good understanding and good comprehension, even though that which they are upon is a mistake. The scale to truth is returning back to the proofs and evidences in the Book of Allah in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the understanding of the Sahaba. We should not allow the shaitan to corrupt our intention. We should not allow the shaitan to cover up the truth with falsehood, or cause us to cover up the truth with falsehood in order to look good in the eyes of those who we want to impress and look good in their eyes. We arrive today to the 8th reason. قال الإمام الشوكاني رحمه الله: ومن جملة أسباب التعصب التي لا يظهر بها كثير من المشتغلين بالعلوم ما يذكره كثير من المصنفين من أنه يرد ما خالف القواعد المقررة. Imam al-Shawkani, he mentioned, rahimahullah, in general from the reasons of ta'assub, of fanaticism, that which many from amongst those who busy themselves with the different aspects and realms of knowledge, they don't perceive this matter. That which has been mentioned by many of the authors, and it is whatever opposes the established principles, this is rejected. Whatever opposes the established principles, this is rejected. Imam al-Shawkani is mentioning this point, meaning that you have people who depend upon principles that have come from their intellect, which opposes the Quran and the Sunnah. So they put the principles that come from their intellects to give precedence to that over the text. And this is one of the reasons which causes fanaticism and causes people to leave off being fair. Imam al-Shawkani, he stated, فَإِنَّ مَنْ لَا غِنَايَةَ لَهُ بِالْبَحْثِ يسمع هذه المقالة ويرى ما صنعه كثير من المصنفين من رد الأدلة من الكتاب والسنة إذا خالف تلك القاعدة، ويظن أنها في اللوح المحفوظ، فإذا كشفها وجدها في الغالب كلمة تكلم بها بعض من يعتقده الناس من أهل العلم الذين قد صاروا تحت إطباق الثرى لا مستند لها إلا محض الرأي وبحث ما يدعى من دلالة العقل. Indeed, the one who does not have a concern for researching, when he hears the statement and he sees that which many from what the authors have done from the rejection of the evidences from the Kitab and the Sunnah, when it opposes this principle, the person thinks that it is something that is in Allah al-Mahfuz. However, when he examines the matter, he finds that this principle, in most cases, is a statement that some of the people have spoken with, which they believe, from the people of knowledge, those who have become under the different levels of the ground. And it has no connection, it has no chain going back to anything except for a person's personal view, or purely a personal view, or that which is strictly a claim from the quote-unquote evidences of the intellect. The Quran and the Sunnah is the source and the foundation of the religion. and not the principles that have been established by individuals, no matter how great their status may be and what level of knowledge they have attained. The basis of the deen is the kitab and the sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba, and not the principles that come from the intellects of men. That which is accepted from the principle is that which is in agreement with the kitab and the sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba. That which has been established from the principles that oppose the kitab and the sunnah and the understanding of the Sahaba, these things are to be rejected. But unfortunately, you find that people will hold on to principles that have been established, even though those principles oppose the kitab and the sunnah. As Imam al-Shawkani says, وَكَثِيرًا مَا تَجِدُ فِي عِلْمِ الْكَلَامِ الَّذِي يُسَمُّونَهُ أُصُولَ الدِّينِ قاعدة قد تقررت بينهم واشتهرت وتلقنها الآخر من الأول وخطوها جبرا يدفعون بها الآيات القرآنية والأحاديث النبوية، فإذا كشفت عنها وجدتها في الأصل كلمة قالها بعض حكماء الكلام زائما أنه يقتضي ذلك العقل ويستحسنه، وليس إلا مجرد الدعوة على العقل وهو عنها بريء، فإنه لم يقضي بذلك العقل الذي خلقه الله في عباده، بل قضى به عقل قد تدنس بالبدعة وتكبر بالتعصب وابتلي بالجهل بما جاء به الشرع، وجاء بعده من هو أشد بلاء منه. Imam Shawkani mentioned, rahimahullah, and much of that which you find in the speech or the knowledge of kalam, that which they called the foundation, or that which they named the foundations of the religion, but in reality, a theological rhetoric, is a principle that's established amongst these individuals, the people of the theological rhetoric, the people who establish these principles that are not in agreement with the kitab and the sunnah. There's a principle that's with these people, and it has become famous amongst them. And the last of them are repeating that which they received from the first of them. And they have made for this principle a bridge, or that which they use as a means to repel the Quranic verses, and that which they use as a means to repel the prophetic hadith, the prophetic narrations. Here Imam al-Shawkani rahimahullah ta'ala, he is establishing how this matter leads to people not being fair and having fanaticism, rejecting the truth. Because the people have given these individuals, or those who have the sickness with them, they give precedence to their principles. And they make their principles as if these principles are the undisputed truth. And whatever opposes these principles, that has to be rejected, because these principles come from intellect. But in reality, they make these principles a bridge that they use to reject the Quranic verses and the ahadith, and you find this from the people of theological rhetoric. But when you examine that principle and you see what it is, you'll find that in its origin, it is a statement that some of the quote-unquote intellectuals from the people of theological rhetoric have stated. And they claim that that principle has been necessitated by way of sound intellect, and that which the intellect deems to be good. However, it is nothing but a claim that is made against the intellect, but in reality, the intellect is free from that claim. Because the intellect that Allah has created in His servants is not what brought about that principle. Rather, it is the intellect that has been polluted with innovation and has been muddied with the matters of fanaticism and tested with being ignorant regarding that which the legislation has come with. That's where those principles come from. It comes from the corrupted intellect, not from the sound intellect. Because remember, the sound intellect, ikhwan wa akhawat, the sound intellect is not going to oppose the text. Look what Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in criticizing the Jews. أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you command the people with righteousness, and at the same time you forget yourself? Although you read the scriptures, do you not have any sense? So here Allah Azza wa Jal is establishing that which opposes the Kitab and the Sunnah, or the legislation, that's not from sound sense, sound intellect, sound reason. Because Allah Azza wa Jal commands, and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam commands that a person practices that which they preach to the people. That a person, when he commands the right and forbids the wrong, he's the first of the people to do that which is right and keep away from that which is wrong. That agrees with sound intellect. Or the sound intellect does not oppose that. So Allah Azza wa Jal, in ridiculing and censoring the Yahud, because they were commanding people with righteousness, but then at the same time forget themselves while they read the scripture. Do you not have any intellect? Do you not have any sense? Our deen is based upon al-ilm, al-amal, al-adl, and al-aql. Meaning, our religion is based upon the knowledge of the Kitab and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf. Our religion entails that we implement that knowledge from the Kitab and the Sunnah with the understanding of Salaf. Our religion entails us being just in our affairs. And our religion entails that which does not oppose sound intellect. Allah does not legislate anything that goes against sound intellect. Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Hakim. Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Alim. Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Khabir. Allah is the All-Wise. Allah Azza wa Jal is the All-Knowing. Allah Azza wa Jal is the All-Aware. So when Allah legislates a legislation, it's in its proper place. When Allah Azza wa Jal legislates a legislation, it's for the benefit of mankind. So nothing from the Kitab and the Sunnah is going to oppose the sound intellect. And this is one of the yardsticks that are used to determine whether a person's intellect is sound or not. And that's whether or not they submit to the deen. They submit to the legislation of Allah. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah ta'ala, he stated, المعارضة بين العقل والنقل هي أصل كل فساد في العالم. وهي ضد دعوة الرسل من كل وجه، فإنهم دعوا إلى تقديم الوحي على الآراء والعقول، وصار خصومهم إلى ضد ذلك، فأتباع الرسل قدموا الوحي على الرأي والمعقول، وأتباع إبليس ونوابه قدموا العقل على النقل. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions that the conflict that is between, and the opposition that is between the aql and the naql, the intellect and the text. This matter is the origin of all corruption in the creation. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah is saying that when the intellect is not submitting to the text, and there is opposition that is taking place between the intellect and the text, this is the origin of the corruption in the world. Because there's not supposed to be any opposition between the intellect and the text. If the intellect opposes the text, there's something wrong with the intellect. If the text opposes the intellect, there's something wrong with that intellect. That intellect is not sound. The intellect has been poisoned. It's polluted. So when you have people saying that they can't see how Allah will legislate such and such and such and such, no, there's something wrong with the intellect, not anything wrong with what Allah has legislated in His legislation. Allah's legislation is perfect. Allah's legislation is the solution to all problems. What did Allah Azza wa Jalla say? وَإِن تَنَزَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. And if you differ in any matter, then refer it back to Allah and the Messenger. Why would Allah Azza wa Jalla command us to refer back to Him and His Messenger if there was no solution? As Allah mentioned, فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. If you truly believe in Allah in the last day, that is better and more suitable for a final determination. Allah didn't command the people to return back to the personal views of people or the principles that the people have made up that are in opposition to the Kitab and the Sunnah. Allah Azza wa Jalla is commanding the people to return back to that which is infallible, the Quran and the Sunnah. So that opposition and the resistance that takes place between the aql and the naql, the disagreement that is there, this is the origin of all corruption. And it is the opposite of the da'wah of the messengers from every angle. When the intellect is opposing the text, this is not what the messengers call the people to use their intellect to oppose the text. Rather, as Imam Shaykh al-Islam ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, he said, فَإِنَّهُمْ دَعُوا إِلَى تَقْدِيمِ الْوَحْيِ عَلَى الْآرَاءِ وَالْعُقُولِ. That indeed the messengers, they called to give him precedence to the revelation over the personal view and that which is in the intellect. This was the call of the messengers. And this means submission to that which comes in the revelation. Because remember, Allah is Al-Alim, is the all-knowing. As for mankind, or as for that which comes from the intellect of mankind, then it is possible that a person can be right in their observation or in their understanding. It's possible that a person can be correct, and it's also possible that a person can be incorrect in their observation and understanding. So Allah Azza wa Jalla does not command us to return back to the end for the final determination. But we are commanded to return back to the Kitab and the Sunnah, which is infallible. So the messenger called the people to give him precedence to the revelation over the personal view and that which is within the intellect. As for those who oppose the messengers, they are upon other than that, or the opposite of that. So we understand from the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahimahullah, that from the methodology of the people who oppose the methodology of the prophets and messengers is that they give precedence to the intellect and personal views over the text. So what did Ibn Qayyim go on to say? فَأَتْبَعُ الرُّسُلِ قَدَّمُوا الْوَحْيِ عَلَى الْرَأْيِ وَالْمَعْقُولِ. So the followers of the messengers, they give precedence to the revelation over the personal views and that which comes from the intellect. If you want to check yourself to see if you are truly from the followers of the messengers, then look to see whether or not you give precedence to the text over the intellect or precedence to the intellect over the text. And this will tell you where you are in relation to your practice of the religion. And then he goes on to mention وَأَتْبَعُ Iblis, and the followers of Iblis, وَنُوَّابُهُ, and those who take his place, is نُوَّابُهُ. And I stated نُوَّابُهُ the first time, but نُوَّابُهُ قَدَّمُوا الْعَقْلَ عَلَى النَّقْلِ. They give precedence to the intellect over the text. So from the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, there are two categories of people. Those who are the followers of the messengers and those who are the followers of Iblis. Where do we stand? Are we from the followers of the messengers, or are we from the followers of Iblis? And it's very important that we make sure that we are from the followers of the prophets and messengers, because their methodology is the state methodology, the path that leads to the paradise. As for being from the followers of Iblis, then the path of Iblis, it leads to the hellfire. So the intellects that come that comes up with these principles that are in opposition with the Kitab and the Sunnah, these are intellects that have been polluted and corrupted. Because Allah Azza wa Jal has created the intellect to be sound. ما من مولود إلا يولد على الفطرة فأبواه يحودانه أو ينصرانه أو ينجسانه. There's no child that's born except that the child is born upon the natural disposition. Then it is the two parents that turn the child into a Jew, turn the child into a Christian, or turn the child into a Magian. One may say, what does this hadith have to do with intellect? The parents turning the child into a Jew, a Christian, or a Magian is the parents corrupting the intellect. Because Judaism is corruption of the intellect. Christianity is corruption of the intellect. Being a fire worshipper, this is corruption of the intellect. For the origin of the intellect is in the heart. Then the brain follows. The origin of the intellect is in the heart. And the brain it follows. So when it is stated that the intellects are corrupted, means the hearts are corrupted. And that which comes from the brain of a person's thinking process and the likes, that follows. But the origin is that the heart is corrupt. And we know what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he said regarding the corruption of the heart. إِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. That when the heart is corrupted, then the entire body is corrupted. This is a serious point here. The heart's being corrupted with innovation. The heart's being corrupted and polluted with ta'assub. This affects a person's thinking. This affects a person's practice. As for the Kitab and the Sunnah, the Kitab and the Sunnah is a purification of the heart. The Kitab and the Sunnah gives life to the heart. And this is why we are commanded to submit to what Allah has decreed. Because in that is the salvation. In that is life for the soul, purification of the soul. In that there is the perfection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in the Surah Al-Hajj that which establishes that the intellect are within the heart. That some have denied this matter of the intellect being in the heart. And they have followed the understanding of the kuffar that the intellect is only in the brain. And it has nothing to do with the heart. Because it goes against that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated in His book. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in Surah Al-Hajj, verse number 46. أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا. Do they not traverse throughout the earth so that they can have hearts by which they can understand with? So that they can have hearts by which they understand with. And so here Allah is showing that the aql is there in the heart. And then Allah goes on to mention, same verse, فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. For indeed, it is not the sight of the eyes that becomes blind, rather it is the hearts that are within the chest that become blind, or that are blind. So then you have that which comes after that, or those who come after these individuals, who have a more severe trial and tribulation than the ones who preceded. Those who their knowledge is of a lesser status, meaning the followers of the people who have established these principles. After them, they have their followers who come, and these individuals, their situation is worse. Their knowledge is less, they're further away from the legislation. And then they make that principle, and qa'idatan aqliyatan dururiyatan, they make it an intellectual principle that is necessitated. فَدَفَعَ بِهَا جَمِيعَ مَا جَاءَ عَنِ الشَّارِعِ. And by way of these principles that were established by their leaders, who they follow, they repel all of that which has come from the legislator. Imam al-Shawkani, he mentioned, عَرَفَ هَذَا مَنْ عَرَفَهُ وَجَهِلَهُ مَنْ جَهِلَهُ. Those who know it, they know it. And those who do not know it, they do not know it. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفْ هَذَا فَلْيَتَّهِمْ نَفْسَهُ. And whoever does not know it, then let him accuse himself or blame himself. Some of the ulama, they have mentioned that the first shubha to take place in creation was the shubha of Iblis. And what is the origin? Al-Qiyas al-Fasid, corrupt reasoning. Corrupt reasoning. For Iblis, he is the first of those who put his intellect before the text. Allah Azza wa Jal commanded Iblis to prostrate to Adam alayhi salam. He refused to follow that commandment from Allah. And what was his excuse? That which came from his intellect. I'm better than him. You created me from fire, you created him from earth, to the end. So we see how placing the intellect from the text is from the way of Iblis. The scholars have mentioned that when a person gives precedence to the intellect over the text, then that leads to eradicating the intellect in itself. And it also leads to eradicating the legislation. Sheikh Rabi'a, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he stated, وكذلك المعتزلة والقدرية والجهمية والصوفية كلهم عندهم تأويلات تحريفات ورد للنصوص بطرق. He said that the Mu'tazila and the Qadariyya and the Jahmiyya and the Sufiyya, all of these groups of demons, they have with them these false interpretation and distortion of the religion. All of them. All of the groups of innovation, they have this with them, ikhwan wa akhawat. Even though the innovations differ from one group to another group. But how is it coming? By way of bituruq muntawiya, by twisted, corrupted ways. خاصة في القرون المتأخرة, من بعد ما انتشر الكلام في الأشاعرة وغيرهم. Especially in the latter generations, after the matters of theological rhetoric have spread amongst the Asha'ira and other than them. So here we see where these deviations are coming from. Coming from the people of theological rhetoric, and their methodology is putting the intellect before the text. One of the scholars of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Al-Imam al-Sam'ani, rahimahullah ta'ala, he stated, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ فَصْلَ مَا بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَ الْمُبْتَدِعَةِ هو مسألة العقل فإنهم أسسوا دينهم على المعقول وجعلوا الاتباع والمأثور تبعا للمعقول وأما أهل السنة قالوا الأصل في الدين الاتباع والمعقول تبع ولو كان أساس الدين على المعقول لا تطبل الخلق عن الوحي وعن الأنبياء ولبطل معنى الأمر والنهي ولقال من شاء ما شاء. He stated, have knowledge that the difference between us and between the people of innovation is the matter of the intellect. For indeed, the people of innovation, they established their religion upon the intellect. And they made the matter of following and that which is related in the narrations to follow the intellect. As for Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, then they say that the origin in the religion is following, meaning following the text. And that which is in the intellect follows the text. And if the foundations of the religion were based upon the intellect, then, let me go back and read that now. ولو كان أساس الدين على المعقول لاستغنى الخلق عن الوحي وعن الأنبياء ولبطل معنى الأمر والنهي ولقال من شاء ما شاء. الحمد لله. If the foundation of the religion was based upon that which is in the intellects, then the creation would stay away from the revelation. They would do without the revelation, and they would do without the following of the prophets. And when that happens, then there will be no meaning to the matter of a commandment or a prohibition in the religion. And anyone who wants to say something, he will say whatever he wants to say. Because now the religion is based upon intellect. And everyone claims that they have an intellect. So everyone can come about with their ideas, their understanding, their observations. Everyone will give their personal views. So now, there's no meaning now to the text. There's no meaning of a commandment or prohibition because a person can say there's no benefit in that commandment. And the religion is based upon intellect. So I don't view that to be something that has benefit in it. So I'm not practicing it. So the people say, well, the religion is not supposed to oppose intellect. Well, this is corruption. This is corruption. This is corruption, and this is taking the people away from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated. So that what Shaykh Rabi'a has mentioned regarding the Mu'tazila and the Qadariyya and the Jahmiyyah and the Sufi, all of them, all of the groups of innovation, they have these false interpretations with them and distortion of the religion and rejecting of the text by twisted ways, meaning by their twisted understandings and thinking. Shaykh Rabi'a, he went on to mention, فهم يقولون إذا تعارض العقل والنقل نقدم العقل. لماذا؟ لأنه أصل النقل. The Shaykh says, انظروا حار الضلال. Shaykh Rabi'a says the people of innovation, they say that when the intellect and the text contradict one another, we give precedence to the intellect. Why do they say that? They say because the origin of the text is the intellect. The Shaykh says, look at this. Look at this misguidance. أما أهل السنة, Shaykh Rabi'a, he says, أما أهل السنة فالأصل عندهم اتباع الكتاب والسنة والعقل السديد هو الذي يفهم القرآن والسنة والعقل الصريح لا يناقض النقل الصحيح ولا يتعارض العقل والنقل أبدا. Shaykh Rabi'a, he says, as for Ahl Sunnah, the foundation with them is the following of the Kitab and the Sunnah. And the straight intellect, the sound intellect, it is that which understands the Quran and the Sunnah. And the intellect that is sarih, the intellect that is upright, the intellect that is sound and is not has not been corrupted. What is the sign of this intellect that is sound, the intellect that has not been corrupted, the intellect that is sincere, straightforward? It is the intellect that does not oppose the sound text. The sound intellect does not oppose the text. And there is no contradiction between sound intellect and the text from Allah, as Shaykh Rabi'a mentioned. He said, abadan. There's never any contradiction between the sound intellect and the text. Because Allah, remember, ikhwan wa akhawat, Allah sent down the religion to be understood and to be practiced. Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He revealed the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He was sent to an unlettered people. Shaykh Rabi'a, he says about these people of innovation who give precedence to the intellect over the text, he says, لكن هم ليس عندهم عقول إنما عندهم شبهات ووساوس يسمونها عقليات. He says these individuals, they don't have any intellect. They don't have no sound intellect. They only have with them doubts and whispers from the shaitan, which they claim to be intellectual matters. And this is the reason why you find that their desires and their thoughts oppose the Quran and the Sunnah. Shaykh Rabi'a, he clarifies what is the foundation of knowledge with the people of innovation. He says, and he's speaking about the people of innovation here, أساس العلم هو العقل وهو الميزان. العقل هو الميزان. فإن جاء الشرع يوافق العقل قبلوه لا لأجل أنه شرع وإنما لأنه وافق عقولهم الفاسدة. وإن خالف عقولهم قدموا العقل على الكتاب والسنة فأي شر يفوق هذا. Shaykh Rabi'a, he says, the foundation of knowledge with the people of innovation is the intellect. And this is the scale that they use to judge affairs. The intellect is the scale with the people of innovation. If the legislation comes with that which agrees with the intellect or their intellect, they accept it. Not because it's legislation from Allah, they only accept it because it agrees with their corrupt intellects. And if it opposes their intellects, what do? They give precedence to the intellect over the Kitab and the Sunnah. Shaykh Rabi'a said, what evil is over this evil? أن يقدم عقله الفاسد الجاهل على كلام الله الحكيم العليم الخبير الذي أحاط بكل شيء علما. He says, what evil is greater than this evil? That a person gives precedence to his corrupt, ignorant intellect over the speech of Allah, who is Al-Hakim, the All-Wise, Al-Alim, the All-Knowing, Al-Khabir, the All-Aware, the one who has knowledge of all things. الذي قدره حكمة وشرعه حكمة, the one who his decree is wisdom and his legislation is wisdom. وكل قضية من القضايا التي يشرعها حكمة, and every judgment or decree from the decrees of Allah, that which Allah has legislated, is wisdom. My noble brothers and sisters in Islam, this is a serious point here. This matter of putting the intellects before the text. We must make sure that we never give precedence to our intellects over that which Allah has revealed. Whatever opposes the Kitab and the Sunnah is to be rejected, no matter who it comes from, even if the person is looked at as being from the most knowledgeable of the people. Infallibility is in the text of the Kitab and the Sunnah. As for the thoughts and observations of the people and their views, these matters are subjected to being right or wrong. And we have to make sure, barakallahu feekum, that the Kitab and the Sunnah is what we use to judge all affairs. And we do not judge the Kitab and the Sunnah based upon our personal feelings and desires. I will end with mentioning some of the evils that come with putting the intellect before the text. From the evils of placing the intellect before the text is that it will cause a person to enter into the religion that which is not from it. As we find with the people of innovation, when they have put their intellect before the text, this causes them to come about with false interpretations. These individuals, they will interpret the Quran or interpret the Hadith with other than the well-known interpretation that has come on the Salaf. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he says about these individuals, من فسر القرآن أو الحديث وتأوله على غير التفسير المعروف عن الصحابة والتابعين فهو مفتر على الله ملحد في آيات الله محرف للكلم عن مواضعه. وهذا فتح لباب الزندقة والإلحاد وهو معلوم البطلان بالاضطرار من دين الإسلام. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned that whoever interprets the Quran or the Hadith and gives it an interpretation other than the tafsir that is known on the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, that this person is lying upon Allah. Look at the statement Ibn Taymiyyah makes. This person is lying. He's invoking a lie upon Allah. And this individual, he has deviation when it comes to the verses of Allah. And he is distorting the speech from its proper place. And this individual has opened up a door for heresies and ilhad. And this is what is known. Or this is this type of behavior or this type of action, interpreting the Quran and the Sunnah with other than the interpretation of the Sahaba. Its falsehood is well known by necessity from the religion of Islam. So this is from the evils of putting the intellect before the text. That it causes a person to interpret the religion or enter into the religion that which is not from it. Another evil that comes from placing the intellect before the text is that a person, his reasoning, his understanding becomes corrupted, as we find in the case of Iblis, when he put his intellect before the commandment of Allah, and his reasoning became corrupted to the point, barakallahu fikum, he didn't repent, and he remained upon his disobedience. As Allah mentioned, Aba wastakbara wa kana min al-kafirin. He refused to prostrate, and he became arrogant, and he was amongst the disbelievers. So upon us, barakallahu fikum, is complete submission. As Allah mentions, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ. That is not for the believing man nor the believing woman that when Allah and His Messenger have decreed a decree or command, that they have for them a choice in their affair. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. All you who believe, don't put yourselves before Allah and His Messenger and fear Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِمَّا قَضَيْتَ وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. No, by your Lord, they do not truly believe until they make you, O Muhammad, the judge, that which they disputed amongst themselves, and then they do not find within themselves any aversion from that which you have judged with or decreed, and they submit with full submission. These are the characteristics of the believers mentioned here. Accepting the decree of Allah and His Messenger, submitting, not putting oneself forward before Allah and His Messenger, and whenever there are any disputes, returning back to the Kitab and the Sunnah for the judgment. And when we know what the judgment is, we have nothing in our hearts against that judgment, and we submit with full submission. These matters are from the characteristics of the believer, characteristics of the people of the Sunnah. As for putting the intellect before the text, this is from the methodology of Iblis and his followers. And I will stop at this point. Whatever is correct, the praise is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And whatever is incorrect, it is from myself. Subhana Allahumma bihamdik. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullah khairan.